Yeah. Okay, so there's two questions, and I'm not sure which order to take them. I think I'll take them in the order they were asked. The first one Ron was asking was, and it's a really hard question. I may not have the answers. Ron's question is, for those people who are turned off politics and disengaged, what can a guy like Ron say to those people in peer groups and friends you run into? What can you do to convince them that it makes a difference to vote?
Without commenting that I'm just totally in the opposite direction.
Yeah, and in a way that they find compelling, and they just can't write it off as, yeah. So I think the only way to ever convince anybody is to speak from your heart and be honest about it. You have to try to reach somebody where they are. So there's no magic formula or spin to this. It's got to be heartfelt. What I say to young people is, don't think of it as politics. Politics has become a contaminated and degraded word. Politicians really are held in public esteem somewhere below the paparazzi. And there's a reason for this. They've behaved badly, which gets to Maura's point. But don't think of it as politics. So what do you think of it as? Think of it as a vast experiment in democracy. Think of it as a moment when you've got a leader of a party, that would be me, who's prepared to tell the truth all the time no matter what. Who's prepared when they say to me, but what about higher gas prices? Aren't you worried about carbon? No, we actually have to face facts. And on this planet, we are running out of cheap oil. Anyone tells you we can do something to reduce gas prices, and that's going to be either possible or can be done consistent with fighting the threat of the climate crisis, it's just not true. So I'll just, no matter whether it hurts me or not, I'll tell the truth. Now, that could be a really interesting experiment. And what if all the people who thought that politics was boring and canned and only for people who already belong to political parties or only for people who are prepared to lie and scratch and scrape and do anything to get power, what if they thought it might just be an opportunity for the citizens of this country to gain their power back? So I don't know. That's what I say to people. Please think of this as an experiment, and it only works if you get involved. That may not work for some of your friends. If that doesn't work, do tell them they're invited to 24 Sussex Drive. Once I'm Prime Minister, it's a very big house. There's lots of space. I'm not sure what some people are going to go with a different message. Now, Maura's question.
Can I start?
Okay, Mike wants to start the answer to Maura's question. First, let me repeat Maura's question for anyone who missed it. That she's very turned off and disgusted by the disrespectful attitude of politicians, the way that the House of Commons is conducted, and she's always been impressed by the high road approach of the Green Party. How will we go forward and not get dragged down into the muck of some of the other ones? Okay, so Mike.
Maura, thanks for that question. And this actually came up as a specific discussion within Shadow Cabinet 2 weeks ago. And we call it paralyzed parliament. Why? Because it is disrespectful. It is all about positioning. It is about partisan. So the first thing we decided was we put Canada first, Green Party second. That has to happen. Also, Greens didn't get where we are today by mudslinging and not working with other people. We are very patient people, right? And this is a testimony to how patient we are to get to, for 20 years, 25 years, to get to this stage, which means we have built up an organic, natural skill for dialogue and bridging gaps to get people working together. And this came up at the Guelph Mercury today at the editorial board about cooperation. And Elizabeth wants to talk about that because mudslinging does not get cooperation, and we actually want to have a code of ethics for Green Party MPs that are accountable to the party. So if someone is acting inappropriately, they are called to the carpet, and there is a code of ethics person within our party that will ensure that person. And hopefully I would be that first person to be policed, per se.
Well, yeah.
And I would promise to show and set an example in Parliament of professionality and courtesy to all parties.
Thanks, Mike. Whether it's a privilege to watch Question Period, especially in person, It's much worse in person than watching it on CPAC. And the reason for that is that the television camera is only focused on the person asking the question, and immediately afterwards focuses on the person not answering. So what happens and the voices are amplified of the person asking the question. And if you're sitting in the gallery, you have there's very bad acoustics in the House of Commons in any event. The room is beautiful, but the vaulted ceilings and the tradition, of course, the MP faces the speaker, and the diplomatic gallery is at the back gallery right in the middle looking towards the speaker, so they have to turn their back to me. You do need the little doohickey thing in your ear to hear the person asking the question. But they're often, even with amplified voice, I can often not hear the question at all over the noise. And the speaker is not controlling things. It is vile. It is really offensive. And my daughter won't go with me anywhere. She's 16. Last time I dragged her because I had to take her to a doctor's appointment right afterwards, and the debate, it's really ridiculous what the kind of things that go through your mind as a mom, thinking, oh, I hope they'll behave themselves today. I'm bringing my daughter. Just please let them be good. But she actually turned to me at one point. She said, the noise, I could hear it, and I was hoping she couldn't hear it and that the doohickey thing was loud enough. But she turned to me. It was actually at the time of the issue of the poisoned pet food from China. She said, Mummy, they're barking. That was the last day she'll go to question period till the day I'm introduced to the House of Commons as an MP. So what I would do in those circumstances, people often ask me, what do you do if you're surrounded by heckling, you're surrounded by rudeness, you're surrounded by disrespect? My role model, for those of you who remember her, as a member of Parliament, is Flora MacDonald. She was a Cape Bretoner who ran in Kingston, the Islands. She was progressive conservative. She's still, at 83, right now, working with her NGO helping in northern Afghanistan. I urge you to go support her group. It's called Future Generations. You can find it on future.org on the web. As an octogenarian, Flora MacDonald is still one of the classiest, most dedicated, most decent people I know. But when she was an MP, she'd stand there and she never, ever acknowledged the rudeness. And what I figured out is the solution to people yelling. The speaker should stand up to stop the yelling, but he often almost never does, to call for order, because they don't pay any attention. So the trick is someone's rising to ask a question, because we have to set a standard, that not just for our own conduct, we have to actually set such a standard and set such an example that the others are shamed and start behaving themselves. And I think the trick will be that when you rise to ask a question, if you're being heckled, sit right back down. If the speaker doesn't call for order and give you your time, okay, so be it. You missed your question. Do it a few times, and the speaker will start realizing, stand up and call for order. I think we can restore decency and respect. Even one or two of us in the House of Commons can change that, because it's horrible when you see school groups being led out by embarrassed teachers. These are the halls of our democracy. These are institutions that matter. And it's one of the signs of a democracy crisis when the oratory of your MVP turns into woof woof. You know that there's something wrong with the institutions, and it shows this fundamental disrespect of the people who voted to send them there when they cannot conduct themselves appropriately. And we will change that. I really believe we'll change the climate in Parliament.